be fairly smooth on top. And I put just a little bit of oil, not too much, in my big mixing bowl, or bread bowl, and kind of swish it around, and then put the dough right down in the center of it. At this point, you can spray it just a little bit with a water mist, just to make sure it stays moist, and then cover it, and then back in the oven it goes, just to keep it warm, about 80 to 90 degrees. And it's probably going to take 2, 3, 4 hours, depending on the sourdough, how active it is, the yeast, as well as how warm your oven is. Once it rises to about double, and hang on. Yes, once the sourdough dough has risen to about double, you could then take it out of the oven, and you'll notice that I have my fist and I push down right in the middle to try to push the air, and then push in the sides. And you see I've been getting my pan ready for the bread. And I take and I grease the pan real well with Crisco. And then I like to add just a little bit of cornmeal. This is a pretty good cornmeal, lamb's cornmeal. You can add stuff to it and make cornbread. But I just add a little cornmeal and then shake that all around in the pan, just to kind of coat it. Now, you don't have to do this, but it gives a little cornmeal on the bottom of the heel. And you see again, I punch the bread down in the center, and then I work in the sides, and then work the shape of loaf. Now, I don't have a picture of this, but you would work your bread on the table, get all the air out of it, pull it out in kind of a rectangle, fold it over halfway, long ways, then fold in the ends, and then fold it over long ways again, and form your bread dough, or your loaf. And then I like to spray the top with a little water. And then you cover it, and back in the oven you go to let it rise. Notice that I have another pan in the bottom of my oven. This is going to be for water. Once the dough has risen, then I put this pan in the oven. However, I will then turn my oven on at 450 degrees to 475, depending on the heat of your oven. I'll take another pan and boil water on the stove. Okay? Now, when you get it boiled, then you want to, and you'll see in a minute, you're going to add that water to the pan in the bottom of the oven to make your oven a steam oven. I then take 1 egg and a teaspoon of water, mix that up, called an egg wash, and I will then coat very gently the loaf of bread that's risen now, right, with my egg wash. That gives it a nice sheen. Now, if you like, you can make little slices, dashes in your top of your bread. After your bread is risen, you want to be very careful here, because you can make the bread go down. I usually like to do that before the bread rises, but sometimes it makes big cracks. It's best to do it on French bread. Then you see I have the boiling water, and I pour it in that steam pan in the bottom of my oven. And now I'm ready to put the bread in. The oven is hot at 450 degrees. I'm going to set the timer for 40 minutes. Every 5 minutes, like at 35, 30, 25, and so forth, once I have the bread in there, I put the bread in the oven. I'm going to open the oven up And I'm going to spray it with my sprayer, as well as I might pour a little of that water on the bottom of the oven itself just to make it more steamy. After the first 10 to 15 minutes, you could then reduce the oven's heat to 350 degrees. Now remember, the timer was initially at 40 minutes, so you spray it about every 5 minutes. After 10 to 15 minutes, you reduce the temperature of the oven to 350. And you'll see I continue spraying it about every 5 or so minutes. There's like at 20 minutes and so forth. Now when it gets down to maybe a minute or so before the timer goes off, I'll then take my temperature gauge and open the oven and jam your temperature gauge into the bread. Kind of do it where it doesn't show too much, but you want it in the center of the bread, at least the tip, and the temperature should be, to be done, it should be right close, if not right at 200 degrees. So bread is done when the center of it is at 200 degrees. There you is a pretty good picture of it. And it's time to take the bread out. Take it out of the pan and let it cool as long as you can. If you can't just let it cool all the way, get a knife and have a loaf of bread. And you can see, I've got this as a sandwich loaf, but it makes great toast. Or of course you could also again make it into a French loaf. And you can see that I have sliced this. I actually put the dashes in the bread before it rose, and then when it cooked it looks like this. And so God bless you. Have good sourdough.